The God Experiment by Matt Richardson, Part 5. God found me in the middle of a hurricane. We were absolutely flying down an ill-advised stretch of I-95. That evening, the road stayed slick with white waves of spitting rain and bits of black ice that stuck to the asphalt like butter. Storm warnings vibrated the phones in our pockets like a pair of dildos. I clung to the steering wheel and kept my eyes on the road, but still begged my friend to film me the fuck in. Who were you texting? What is going on? Where are we going? Say something! Tom tore his eyes from the phone and finally turned to face me. How do you think we have any money? I stared blankly. I had never really considered that fact. Studies always had donors. It could be anybody, individuals, institutions, companies, or organizations, as long as they followed the letter of the law, which we did not. My colleague flicked my forehead like an asshole. I swatted his hand away and tried to focus on the road. Who do you think paid for all the computers in the back seat? Or the lab we sit in every day? How about the extremely expensive video equipment we used to monitor 5 individuals the weeks they were murdered? 5? Priyanka is... Tom guaffed at my apparent stupidity. Take the next exit. I did as I was told. The dripping water through the window made me shiver involuntarily. I did it myself this time, he mumbled. Better that way. For a dissident. Nothing but a little arsenic in her girlfriend's peppered chicken. What the fuck are you talking about? I asked. You have to talk to me, man. I'm the one driving. Tom took one long look at me before he finally sighed and replied. There is a man behind the curtain. Justin. There always is. We need to get away from him. A massive oak tree fell from the side of the road. It landed about 20 feet ahead. That should have given me enough time to stop. But the brakes in my car screeched unevenly. I did my best to swerve, and so we did not crash immediately. Tom had time to offer one final line in the chaos before wood splinters ripped apart the paneling of my mid-sized SUV. There is always a man behind the curtain. The next few moments in my memory is a mixture of broken glass and hurling objects. I can remember the tumbles pretty clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 suspensions of gravity in total. Seatbelts kept us both stationed securely to the vehicle, but the same could not be said for the piles of electrical equipment. The good news was that the last turnover put the car right side up. The bad news was that we were in the middle of a New Jersey swamp, and Tom was losing a lot of blood. He faded in and out of consciousness. My arm felt broken. Nonetheless, adrenaline allowed me to pull my colleague from the car and lay him down on the hill. My middle-class pipe dreams sunk into 2 feet of mud with all our equipment. We were stuck. The accumulating rain made it impossible to drag ourselves up. I tried to stop Tom's bleeding with my t-shirt. That was about as successful as trying to stop a spout with a pin. The worst wound the old man sustained struck his wrinkled old head. Red bits of skin and flesh poked through my white shirt. The pulsing scrape seamed up all the rain all the same. I don't think he had much time left. I do think the integrity of that moment made him reconsider a few things in life. He would have tortured her. The words again made me feel cold inside. Why? Who is he? Why does he care? I don't understand. Tom, why would you kill one of our subjects? It was just like going to sleep. A pair of headlights arrived by the side of the road soon after. I could barely see the figure that gracefully slid down the embankment. He wore an impeccable black suit that fit his thin and agile form flawlessly. I waved and called out, "There's a man dying over here!" But he did not reply. The rain started to erode the embankment we were lying upon. The shadow in the suit watched me struggle to hold up Tom's body with a broken arm and a couple of cracked ribs. He snorted audibly and said, "Good evening to you both," in an awkwardly confident tone. I tried to reply back. Help had arrived. I thought we were saved, but before I could, the man Tommy once called God shot him 2 times in the stomach. Then there was only one subject remaining in the study. Me. Part 6. I wished I wasn't alive. That's such a bullshit statement these days. What do the kids call it? Basic? The very same line could be applied to waiting in the doctor's office with a common cold, or sneezing in someone's face, or using the restroom in a public place. It just doesn't mean anything anymore, you know? Exaggeration and veneer have taken the guts out of the very words meant to imply the severity of my situation. Truthfully now, let's try that again. I wished I was not alive. If you thought the devil capable of immense torture, then God will almost certainly offer you a pleasant surprise. He brought me somewhere inside. The drugs that coursed through my veins in an IV were unlike anything I had ever experimented with in college. Pain became something to rest my hat on when breathing was no longer a required chore. The shapes inside my teeming space blended together like 3 white rabbits shuffling through a surgery room. I felt insanity grip the corners of my brain and hold it tight like a vice. I prayed to death through gritted teeth and begged him to visit me that night. But he didn't. Tommy knew about this fate. His last words told me everything I needed to know. There is always a man behind the curtain. I would like to talk about the God experiment. Through all the chaos of pain and pounding vibrations in my body, I could hear the voice as clear as it could be. It boomed and resonated throughout the hollow room as if on an echo. I spoke back as a humble servant prepared to meet my maker. Subject 005 is a little lady named Priyanka. She is 25-year-old, bisexual female. A white rod of lightning intercepted my mind. Again? Subject 005 was killed by Subject 6, Tommy. The pain grew worse. God did not like my answer. I asked him why. His response was to draw a deep breath and let out an overwhelming sigh. The kid's too loopy. This is not working. We will have to try again later. I looked around the room and tried to take in my surroundings. The walls were stained with waves of brown water damage and growing mold. The floor felt concrete. My bare feet were tied to the legs of a rickety wooden chair. I shook nervously. Fuck! God screamed in annoyance. This was not the plan. This was not the fucking plan. A female voice called out from somewhere in the background.
Life never fits the plan, Diego. But you were the handler on this one. Your fuck up.
A third deep tone murmured its support. Diego's reply seemed angry. I did not know why. This memory was supposed to wipe. The feds tested it years ago. Hell, we have used the same drugs on Subject 006 for years. Is it too soon? The female voice sounded downright cocky when she replied.
Not too soon. Just doesn't always work the way you want.
Their voices converged in a cacophony of whispers too difficult to understand. Somewhere underneath all the horrible things churning inside of me, clarity approached. You're not God. I offered the words to the room in a daze.
Oh, now they get it.
The male voice laughed again. Then he punched me in the mouth. Haven't you heard? The state is God. The G-man looked at the bruise on his fist while I spit a pool of blood in his direction. It all added up in that moment. The subjects were dissidents. They were destined to die because our government wanted them dead. Our purpose in the God experiment was to only ensure death came at the right time. We have to kill him. The Attorney General... The lady cut off her partner.
The AG doesn't have to know anything.
They both paused.
Do you hear that?
I took the momentum of the moment to throw my chair to the floor. The struggle that ensued did not favor my side. I broke the legs and managed to scurry free, but soon enough, the third giant crow wrapped his arms around my arms while the other two punched me. When Tom burst through the unlocked door to our room, I outright laughed at his sheer stupidity. The fat man was covered in blood. It dripped from his head and lab coat like an absurd C-rated horror movie. However, his next few actions were nothing short of heroic. Without them, I would not be alive to tell this story today. Thank the Lord. Tom brought a big old gun with him. 2 bullets caught my attackers immediately. The third let go of me just before Tom shot him in the knee. I stumbled out of the room and escaped the scene of the crime just in time. Tom caught one more bullet himself that night. He died alongside the same men that ruined his life. The government selected 7 subjects from radically different backgrounds. Their names were Mike, Caroline, Courtney, Michelle, Priyanka, Tommy, and me. The reason behind multiple genders and orientations seemed pretty simple. Our handlers wanted to prove a point during this run of the God experiment. Everyone is vulnerable at any time. Anyone can be taken care of outside the public eye. The subjects we watched were targeted for execution by the same government that collects their taxes. And so, there is no more apt description for our commanders-in-chief. The state is God. If you ask for more answers, I am afraid they are short in supply. For the past 6 months, I have been forced to hide, and I do not know why the feds allow me to live. I can feel their eyes every time I go to bed. Just before I submitted this final update, the camera on my laptop flicked to red. The state is watching me. They are watching you too. I only wanted someone else to see.